1992, our food pantry at the church in South Bend had a little congregation, 60 members. The largest growth group in the congregation was single mothers with children, no deep pockets. And when people would come to the food pantry we'd run there, we'd ask people, tell us how much is your income and how much are your expenses. There wasn't anything we could do with this information because people would tell us, oh, our income's $400 a month and our expenses are $800 a month. And we're this little congregation. What can we do with that? And so we did with it what we knew to do with it, which was we put it in a file cabinet. There wasn't much. So there was, but we decided, we came to Pentecost, and we read that passage in Scripture, Acts 2, where it says, God's Spirit flows down on all people, young and old, women and men. And we said, well, if that's true, then that's got to be true for people who show up at the food pantry as well. So we started asking people. Actually, John McKnight had published a little monograph years ago called A Guide for Low-Income Communities and the People Who Live There. And in it, they had like this form. You could ask people about their gifts. It was like 10 pages long, and we used that. And people didn't believe that we really wanted to know, but we got halfway through and they thought we were serious. Ask people, do you take care of children? Do you take care, have you done that because they're members of your family or because you work somewhere, because you help a neighbor out? What about older folks and what have you done? And can you fix a toaster? Can you drive a car? Can you run an office? One of my favorite questions all the time was, have you ever kept track of supplies? And often people would say no, and then you'd say, well, what are you doing here? And so we'd ask people, and I loved, he had a couple questions at the end which we took and used, and then we made up a third one. But we asked people 3 questions at the end. What 3 things do you do well enough that you could teach somebody else how to do it? What 3 things would you like to learn that you don't already know? And then we asked our own third question, which is, who besides God and me is going with you along the way? Because we thought it was important for people to name the other people in their lives, because when people were coming to the food pantry, they're feeling kind of isolated and lonely. And if people would say, oh, there's nobody, and then you'd say, well, who was at your last birthday party? Oh, well, and then they'd start naming people, and people kind of come alive as they do that. Well, one of the first people who came to us was a little woman who lived about half a block from the church named Adele, who lived with 3 generations of her family in the house. And she was working, but she didn't have enough food to feed everybody. So she talked with us, and she told us she was a good cook. So we said, prove it. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, cook for the custodian, the secretary, and the pastor, lunch on Friday. So she cooked for us, and it was fabulous. So the leadership of the neighborhood organization was meeting. We said, don't meet somewhere else, meet here at the church and let Adele cook for you. So she cooked for them, and they loved it. Well, over the next 9 months, there were little events that went on in the community. Studebaker Elementary had a PTO meeting. They needed some food for it. Memorial Hospital had a press conference. They needed some food for it. So there were different things. She cooked for that. Well, then the Chamber of Commerce called us. And they said, we'd like to have an all-day meeting of our leadership program in your church building. And we said, well, that day works all right for us. And they said, okay, since we're going to be there all day, we'd like to use your kitchen. And we said, well, you can use our kitchen, but we would prefer that you use our caterer. And they said, okay. And so we made our only financial investment. We took $20 and we bought her 1,000 business cards. Said, La Chaparita Catering, spunky Tex-Mex food. And she fed 70 of the business and civic leaders in the community. They handed out her business card to everybody there. Through that, she got connected to the Michiana Businesswomen's Association. And a year and a half later, she opened up Adelitas Fajitas at the corner of 8th and Harrison in Elkhart. Now, if we had asked her when she'd showed up, tell us how poor you are, we would have all ended up poorer for it, and we would have missed a lot of great food.